grateful again for the opportunity God has given us on this platform to reach out to singles on our Single and Satisfied series. We trust that you have been able to access our YouTube page and you're following us. Today we're making more progress. We've been talking about how you can have a successful relationships. My dear wife, Dr. Grace, has brought some truths so far. So we want to build on that. And we trust that God will bless you again today. We want to say, as a way of introducing our today's topic, that a working, successful relationship is not by luck. It's not by chance. It's not a coincidence. You work at it. It's a deliberate working to have something work the way it should be. And she had talked about in the last episode how you can build character. Character is a very foundational key to a successful relationship, and your looks very important. Today we want to bring a very exciting topic. I tag it Remember Lot's Daughters. The one we're often familiar with, remember Lot's wife. But today I want us to remember Lot's daughters, since we're dealing with relationship and young people. Let's glean some lessons from the daughters of Lot. Log in with me to Genesis chapter 19. Genesis chapter 19. Let me read verse 1 for the sake of context and background. Let me now assume that we know the story. I believe you know the story, but let's just have a context. I read from verse 1, then I'll jump to verse 4 of Genesis chapter 19. I'm reading from the King James Version of the Bible. Verse 1 of chapter 19 says, "And there came two angels to Sodom at even," that's evening, "and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom. And Lot, seeing them, rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face towards the ground." I jump to verse 4. "But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young." All the people from every quarter. "And they called unto Lot, and said unto him, Where are the men which came in to thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them." Know them is a mild way, King James mild way of saying that they might have sex with them. Verse 6. "And Lot went out at the door unto them, and shut the door after him, and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, now I have two daughters, which have not known man." Known man again is another mild and gentle way that King James put sex. "Behold, now I have two daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof." Let me just give a general background before I give my first point. The two angels came to Sodom. There was judgment. God was bringing judgment to Sodom and Gomorrah because of their level of immorality and wickedness. And Lot happened to be sitting at the gates. And you know the background of the story. He persuaded them to come to his house. And when they came to his house, in the night, the Bible records that all the men, the young and the old, that gives us a picture of the kind of society they were living in. The practices, the common practice in their society at that time. It was not just for the young, the old had the same practice. They came and were persuading. They saw that when the men came to the city, and they insisted that Lot brings them out so that they would have sex with the men. Then I love what Lot did. He said that they shouldn't do this wicked thing to these men, that he has daughters. So, look, listen, two things there. Lot said that you shouldn't do this wicked thing to these men, but he will bring his daughters so that they can do what is pleasing in their own eyes. That means in their own eyes, it was okay. But Lord's perspective was that this is wickedness. So one of the things we must do in our generation is that we must redefine some things that people have defined again. We must redefine some terms. You find young people saying that when I was having pleasure with my girlfriend, that's having sex, having fun. They call it having fun. But Bible calls it wickedness. We have to again go back to biblical definitions of these terms. God's standard cannot change, has not changed. It's still the same. So, but that's not my point. What's my first point? My first point is that Lot was living in Sodom and Gomorrah, and remember he got married, and he had 2 daughters. He was willing to let his 2 daughters to be scapegoats or to sacrifice them for the sake of these 2 angels. Let me just focus on the issue we want to discuss. Suggesting that Lot's daughters were living in a corrupt society. They were living in a corrupt generation, but they did not compromise their stand. You know where they were coming from? They were a lineage of Abraham. You know, Abraham had a covenant with God. So Lot's daughters were living in a very compromised society. Remember that they've even left the level of men sleeping with women. Now they were at the level of men sleeping with men. That's sodomy. That's another graduated level. So, but they were different. They did not. They had not compromised their sexuality. My wife has brought that point. I'm not going to dwell so much on that. But one of the lessons I want to just bring from that verse of scripture is the fact that one of the very important issues we have to look at as we discuss relationship issues with the young men of our generation is the fact that that everybody is doing it. That doesn't make it right. One of the things that's very foundational to have a successful marriage is having an undefiled marriage bed. When the marriage bed is defiled, it's already a foundation that is cracked. You often find out, you see a lot of marriage issues. If you can trace it, it's back to the defiling the marriage bed. So the first lesson I want us to learn as we remember Lot's daughters is the fact that they lived in a very corrupt society. They lived in a very, very perverse generation, but their father could testify that they were virgins. No, in Israel then, those that had defiled themselves, they were clothes, their dresses that virgins wear. It's not in our own time that you can't physically say who is a virgin or not. But that is not the issue. The first issue, which I don't want to overlabor, because in our last episode, my dear wife brought that dimension, but just to have a base for us to have more points that we'll discuss today. Keep that married bed undefiled. Even if he says that if you don't sleep with him, he won't marry you. It's better you stand your ground than to compromise. It's better you stand your ground. If he doesn't marry you, God will bring the person that will marry you. We live in a time that a lot of young ladies come around and their excuse is that all the guys that are coming, they're asking for sex first. They say, if you can't give me sex, they give a lot of excuses. They say, how will I know that your something is working? Did Adam, my wife will usually jokingly say, did Adam test his own anywhere before God brought Eve? No. Whatever God does is perfect. So we want to still stress this matter because it's a burden to us. The trouble is that in our own time, you talk about this issue with unbelievers, but it has so gotten so bad that these issues are among so-called believers, so-called sisters. I pray that God will, as we bring this point again, to reenact the point that God's standard has not changed. God cannot compromise the standard for anybody. Hold on to Jesus. Keep your virginity. Don't compromise. That's one of the first things we want to look at as we remember Lot's daughters. The next point I want to bring, very interesting. If you go to from verse 12, let's jump to verse 12. And the men said unto Lot, hast thou here any besides son-in-law, and thy sons, and thy daughters, and whosoever thou hast in the city? bring them out of this place. For we will destroy this place, because the cry of them is waxing great before the face of the Lord. And the Lord has sent us to destroy it. And Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said up, get you out of this place, for the Lord will destroy the city. But he seemed as one that mocked unto his sons-in-law. And when we're talking about the coming of Jesus now, it looks as if we're just joking, and one day it will be a reality. God, all these truths we're talking about, it looks as if they're just babbling, they're just talking, but it will be a reality. It's the same context. Verse 15, quickly. And when the morning arose, the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of the city. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hands, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, the Lord being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth to set him without the city. I'm praying that the Lord will be merciful to you in this season, in this time, as we see in this case. Sorry, I can't help it but to bring the dimension of the time we have found ourselves in. We live in a time that is very perilous, and Jesus can come anytime. And these are the times that angels, God is holding the hands of men to bring them out of Sodom and Gomorrah, because judgment is coming soon. I can't help it. I have to say this as to chip in into this matter. I pray that God's mercy, the Bible says God showed them mercy, held them by the hands and brought them out. So let's come back to our point. What's the next point I want to bring? The daughters of Lot, the Bible said in this verse we read that they were married at this point to 2 Sodomites. And from all the warning, remember Lot went and warned the men. He said, go and tell all the people you know that God is bringing destruction. And I believe that the first people that Lot went to was the son-in-laws. They were the first persons he went to. He went and persuaded them. I believe that he begged them. He cried. He said, please, God is bringing destruction. Let's leave this place. But you know that they refused to go. So it was only Lot, his wife, and his 2 daughters that the angels brought out of Sodom and Gomorrah. So what's my next point as we remember Lot's daughters? Even though they were... Okay, let me start from this point. The first point is that we live in a time that I see a lot of Christians that are compromising. How did they end up getting married to Sodomites? Let me come from that perspective. How did they end up marrying? Because the Bible has made it clear that as believers, there's some person, you can't marry an unbeliever. The standard of God cannot change. We have a lot of Christian sisters who come and tell us that, but the guy is good. And I don't know, that's an irony for me. And it's a challenge to brothers in the faith. How can somebody that doesn't have Jesus inside, let me use a bad English, be gooder than you? How can somebody that doesn't have Christ on the inside be more gentle? And one of the complaints is that they say Christian brothers are not romantic. We're not saying you should hold hands and kiss. We're not saying you should do that one. But you're still humans. You share your affections with the person. We're going to come with those episodes to tell you more of that. But my second point, as we remember Lot's wife, is this. Please and please and please, even if there's no a believer in the world again, it's better you stay single than to marry an unbeliever. It's better you remain single than to mismarry. You know, my wife jokingly often says that a lot of married people are wanting to leave their marriages, while a lot of young people, you're eager to get married. A lot of married people have issues and they want to leave their homes. They want to leave their marriages because the foundation was faulty. They missed it. And I can tell you, the few persons that God has given us a privilege to talk with, I can tell you, when you trace back their issues, is this issue I'm talking about. They compromise the standard somewhere. Please and please, can I ask you that, remember Lot's daughters. They married Sodomites. They married unbelievers. It's a very key lesson. Please, for no reason, as I said it and I want to say it again, even if there are no believers in the whole world, it's better to remain single. It's better. And serve the Lord. Paul often advised us in 1 Corinthians that you should be like him, that he didn't marry, and he served God so faithfully, that you should be like him, that the last days are at hand, that you can do more when you don't get married. Even though, of course, he also balanced it and said that, of course, for the sake of passion, so that you don't born, you should get married. But we're giving you the principles. So number 2, don't compromise by marrying a non-believer. The number 3 point from these verses I've read, you notice that Lot persuaded the son-in-laws to follow him, but they refused. They insisted, we're going to remain here. But you notice what happened? The daughters still heard their father. They followed him out of Sodom. They decided to leave their marriage for something better. They were already married from this passage we read, because they were son-in-law already. So they decided that from what these angels have come to say, and from what Lot was saying, that God was bringing judgment. So they decided that I would rather break this marriage than to miss heaven. I better leave this matter. So they left their husbands and followed Lot. That's a very key lesson for me as we bring the issue of remembering Lot's wife, Lot's daughters. Can we ask our young people that there are some relationships that you're in now that you have to break it. There are some people that you think that they are God's will for you by several reasons that you gave, that you felt this were the people. But with time, with maturity and with growth, and with more counsel, with more prayer, your eyes were open. They often say that love is blind. Maybe that's why you didn't see very well. But I often say that if love is blind, that's how you stumble and fall. You have to open your eyes and see clearly. So you must not have whatever is going to cost your eternity. Whatever is going to, if you're in a relationship that is only kissing, is only you're touching, and you're beginning to, and since you enter that relationship, you don't pray as much, you don't study as much. You notice that your life is going backward. I can tell you that you are in a relationship with a sodomite. So what is God saying? Break out. Heaven cannot be compromised for a marriage. You can't compromise heaven for marriage. So that's a very, very key lesson from Lot's daughters. And I want to also bring another input here before I give you my last lesson for today. I noticed that most times the environment you find yourself in determines the kind of person you marry. Remember the story, it dates back to Lot himself. When Lot was to choose, Abraham gave him the opportunity. He raised his eyes and saw a fine vegetation, and he chose that path. And he didn't know that he was getting into Sodom and Gomorrah, and that's where he married from. That's where he married from. And I'm going to bring the dimension of his wife turning back. So he married from there. So eventually the daughters were giving birth to there, and they grew up there. And who were the people around the daughters? Sodomites. So who do you expect them to marry? The people around them that the people they are going to marry. So the people around you, the environment you are in matters. Because God will not give you a husband from the space. God will not give you a husband from the blues. I can tell you there's a study we did on how the patriarchs got their wives. Very interesting. You notice all they were on their journey to destiny. And surprisingly, they got their wives at about 2-3 patriarchs, got it at the well. And another good confirmation of that is John chapter 4, the woman that was adulterous. And Bible said it was at the well she met her 7th husband. She had 6 husbands who has messed up her life. And had it mean she had not met Jesus at the well, she would have continued in that circle and died in that circle. But thank God that she met Jesus, a spouse husband, at the well. So please, can I ask you that where do you often spend your time? What are the places you go often? If you're always going to beer parlor, what kind of wife or husband do you expect to get? Somebody that also is around that area, because you often see them, then you get interested with them, and that's where the journey begins. I want to encourage us to be church people. Even though these days again, even though in church you have to also pray well and look well, because the devil has his seed there. But just to say that your environment matters. Where you stay around, where you're always around, determines the kind of persons you get. Be around God. Be around the people that love God. Let the friends around, that you have be friends that have the same focus and vision with you. I've said it before. There are 3 levels of friendship, or 3 people that you should have around your life. There are people that are ahead of you, like your mentors, that should jack you up, that will challenge you up. Then, of course, you have your people that you are at par, your contemporaries. Then the people that you're carrying along. So, but I'm trying to say also that have friends with people that are like-minded, people that love God, people that fear God. Those are the kind of friends. Cut off from any community of friends, because sometimes it's recommendation of this or this person's friend is who becomes your wife or husband. Because for me, let me share my testimony very briefly. How did I get my wife? It's through my friend. I was a NIFES leader on campus in ATP Bauchi. My friend was a NIFES president in Uni Jos. So we came to a zonal meeting in Jos. That's how we became friends. We clicked, and he invited me to his fellowship one of the days. It was from that time that one of the days I came to visit him in Jos from NYC. And he went around looking for a venue to start a church. And that's how me and him, after checking some venues, he decided to branch. My wife was his medical, was 1 year a medical student. He was 1 year ahead of my wife in the medical school in Jos then. So it was that's how I met my wife. Very interesting. Who is around you matters. Oh my God. This point is very serious because I have series of testimonies in this respect. So let me just leave that because of sake of time. We'll come up with subsequent series to give you more tips. The last point for today. Remember, we're talking about Lot's daughters. We're dealing with this is the episode 4 of Single and Satisfied. Let me just pick verse 26 and round up there for today. Verse 26 says, from verse 25, then he overthrew those cities and all the plain and all the inhabitants of the cities and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. And Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he stood before the Lord, and he looked towards Sodom. You know the rest of the story. This is part 1. For the next episode that I'm coming on board, I'm going to do part 2 from from Lot's daughters. So, but the last lesson that we have from here is that even though the wife of Lot left Sodom, Bible said that she looked back from behind him and she became a pillar of salt. For the marriage people, let me drop a tip for you. How can you be leading? In this scenario, his wife was following from behind. There are cases that, in this case, your wife should be in front. So a lot of people leave their wives behind. So when they turn back, he couldn't help it. If she was in his front, he would have helped you somehow, I think so. So that's just a tip for the married people. But my last point for today is this. Lot's wife turned back. Because, of course, Lot married from Sodom. Her life, her investment, everything was in Sodom. But my interest is Lot's daughters. Remember that they left their husbands. But remember Lot's wife, she went with her husband. Even though the daughters left their husbands, but the Bible said that the record we have is that only Lot's wife turned back. The daughters kept focused. They remained determined where they're going to. I want to say lastly that there's where God is taking you as a young man, as a young woman. He's leading you somewhere. One of the things that is very key in the issue of relationship is that focus, direction, determination. Make up your mind that you're not going to turn back. You're not going to compromise. Don't go back to your vomit. Don't go back to what God has helped you from. Don't go back to those relationships you have left. There's a sister that the other day, the guy that she's relating with, he beats her. And she goes back there. Even before their engagement, the supposed husband to be was beating her to a point that she was injured. The parents came and took her away, said they won't marry again. Do you know that this lady took her legs and went back to this guy? Make up your mind. Don't compromise. God is taking you somewhere. Don't go back to what God has saved you from. Break those relationships. Don't go back there. Don't turn back. There's something better for you up there. These are the few tips that we have for you today, trusting that God has dropped 1 or 2 lessons that will be a blessing to you. Please, as we have said, join us, and God will be reaching out to us with several other issues as concerns relationship. I want to rest my point at this time, and trust that God will bless you. Please, if you're going to watch this video at any point in time and you need to make some decisions with God, please go ahead. Ask God to have mercy upon you. You missed it in this area or the other, that God should make things right. Make things right with God. The time is ticking, and you have a short time to live. Make it count. I pray God blesses you. Let me pray with you briefly as I round up. Father, thank you for this opportunity to come online, to bring these messages on YouTube and other platforms that you're providing for us. Bless those that are listening to us. Young people that are having issues with their relationship, please correct them. Help them build a correct foundation, that they do them good and show them mercy. Thank you, Father. We are grateful. Blessed be your name. Bless all the listeners. In Jesus' gracious name we pray.